For the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, we are live and amplified. So let's get ready to podcast.
Fire it up.
Hey, how's it going, man?
What's going on?
Oh, I'm just out here going brain dead or something. I'm not quite sure yet.
I hear you.
I'm not quite sure yet. So
I hear you.
We're going 9 hours strong. Oh, no, 10 hours. We just hit the 10-hour threshold. So
There you go.
we're getting there. We got 5 more to go.
Nice.
So-
Very cool. Very
And
cool.
Then I get a nice little 6-hour nap. I'm not even going to call it sleep. It's a nap at that point. And then then I go for 18 hours. Tomorrow's going to, I'm trying to decide, is tomorrow going to be the worst day or is Sunday? Because tomorrow we're going to be going for 18 hours, but there's like half-hour breaks sprinkled throughout the day where people either canceled or they never responded to my email. So I'm just kind of assuming they're not going to show up.
Right.
Whereas Sunday, it's just a straight 14-hour day, one right after the other. Like everybody confirmed for Sunday. And I'm like,
Wow.
love to see it, but a break would be nice,
Yeah.
It is what it is. So I'm excited about it. Glad to have you on. We had you on the podcast. Oh, when did we have you on the podcast? I don't even know anymore.
It was on my last album, my previous album release. It was right after that, and we were talking, and it was good. It was real good.
Yeah. I was trying to figure out like a time frame. When did your last album release?
Let's see. So that was back in November or October. So I guess it was right after that. So I think it was in maybe December or January. It might have been January because wasn't it before? No. It was after the snowstorm because that's what we talked about. So it's probably around March.
Okay, so it was right before my mom got sick. Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Okay,
Yes,
I'm
that's
sitting here like it wasn't when I was in Florida because I didn't do a whole bunch of podcasts when I was in Florida.
right.
And I do remember now talking about the snow because that was very fresh in the memory and all that stuff. So,
Which is actually what led me to write Texas Snow because of that.
yeah, for sure. So hopefully this year we don't have the snow like we did last year, but
Hope not.
It's so hard to guess anymore. Who knows?
You never know. We don't normally get that kind of weather. We just don't. That was probably like one in, I don't know, half a century.
Yeah. It's funny because every time I move somewhere, like the last 3 moves for sure, or no, 4 moves. The last 4 moves that I've made, every place that's that next winter or whatever it was, they got really bad weather. And it's like, man, I'm starting to think it's just me because I moved to Waco the next winter, once in a lifetime, once in a 50-year storm, knocks out the power grid, all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
I moved to Roswell, New Mexico. Within a winter or 2, they ended up getting 18 inches of snow.
Oh, gosh.
Which out in the high desert, they ain't ready for that one.
No.
Heck, when I was living in Chicago, we wouldn't be ready for 18 inches of snow. And then Tallahassee, I was living in Florida, lived there for not even 6 months, and they were getting snow, and that part of Florida hadn't seen snow and who knows how long. And I'm like, man, I'm just starting to think it's me. Like this isn't fun. So I guess I got to go move to like the warmest climate I can and see if we can get snow or something.
I don't think Florida, I think Florida was the least affected by that snowstorm. So you might check out Florida, like South Florida around Miami or something like that.
Yeah. I don't know, man. It's so wild. It is what it is.
Yeah.
No, I'm glad to have you back on. It's been a while. I didn't realize it had been almost a year. I thought, for whatever reason, I thought it had maybe been before or after I got back from Florida, but no,
Yeah.
it just goes to show you how quick this year has gone by.
It's gone by so fast. I just look back at when I was on your show last time, and I just released an album, then I just released album number 5 just last month, and it's just gone by. It's gone by so fast. I don't know.
It's wild. And the fact that you mentioned that you released another album, just your ability to put out music like that is insane. Like I just
people call me a recording machine. I will say though that maybe it's age, I don't know, but I feel like that now that I've done 5 albums in 5 years, which that's a feat, kind of like with our fundraiser going on now.
Yeah.
I mean, once you reach a point where you say, you know what, I've accomplished what I've accomplished, and now I'm going to kind of take a step back and just kind of evaluate and just enjoy the moment, So
yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now. It's like I had to pressure myself, which sounds really weird that I have to pressure myself into doing things, but I had been pushing myself so hard that I knew I was setting myself up for not an impossible task, but something that was going to be very taxing to begin with, in doing this 90 podcasts in 3 days, ridiculousness. But so I've kind of told myself 3 weeks ago, I was like, all right, I'm not booking any podcasts for the rest of the year. I'm done. Well, not done, but taking a break. And then a week later, I find myself, man, I've got 6 weeks off. I need to start booking some stuff. Like, just in my head, I'm like, no, stop. What are you doing? You need that 6 weeks. Do you realize what you've been through this year? Like, even if you just sit there and watch mind-numbing TV for 6 weeks, like it's going to help, I swear. And so, it's one of those things where I just bury myself in work, and then I end up hating myself because I'm so tired. So.
Well, and I'm glad that you mentioned that, because that's why that I've written an article about this. How where the body needs rest, the body needs sleep, but the soul actually needs fun. And I was reading Thomas Aquinas's work on that from his Summa, and that actually is what led me to get into more recreational stuff, because I've spent years and years. I mean, going back about 20 years, I've been doing this or that in music, teaching, writing, recording for the last 20 years. And I finally reached a point where I say, you know what? I need to set aside some time for fun, for recreation, a hobby, something like that. Because I think what happens is that we just, if we don't have that, sure, we can work our tails off, and sure, we might get like you mentioned, but at the same time, I think that we also need to find time for fun, and that's what I'm doing, is I'm trying to find some time for fun. And
is that where the remote controls come in? The remote control cars?
That's exactly where it comes in. But it has. And I only spend maybe twice a week, maybe a total in a week time, about 2 hours, 2 hours a week of fun, which, once again, if you look at all the work and teaching and everything that I do, and now promoting not just my recent album, but now promoting, the other 4, having just a couple of hours a week has made all the difference in the world. So what I would recommend to people who are in the music industry, if you're a writer, if you're a songwriter, if you're a painter, whatever, have a hobby. I mean, really, having a hobby for a couple hours a week it makes a difference.
It really does.
It does.
It's one of those. That's why. The only thing that sucks is like all the things that I'm interested in or that could be considered a hobby are like super expensive. And so,
yeah,
like not saying that like race cars are a cheap hobby, but if you really wanted to, you can go to the toy store and, you know, you can make it a cheap hobby, but I'm sure that's not the fun of it. But like, I'm really into like trading cards, like baseball cards, football cards, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that stuff is so expensive. Like just even here, like even being here in Waco, you go to, you know, any of the local card shops and it's just like, man, $20, like that's just a lot to spend on, you know, a maybe. Yeah. So, but it's something that I enjoy doing. And so I'm going to be a glutton for punishment on that one, I guess. I don't know. So,
but you know, if you're having fun doing it and if you can afford it, and I have to put affording in air quotes because, you know, you obviously don't want to, you know, starve, you know, because of trading baseball cards or in my case, RC. But at the same time, life really is, it's a balancing act. And that's what I talked about in an album that I wrote, that work, rest, and play or fun, it's all a balancing act. So if you put too much emphasis on any of those three, what's going to happen is it's going to throw that balance off. So if you find that you're spending a lot of money in one area, you may go, did I really need to do that?
Yeah. Yep. Oh, and I mean, I think that it's interesting because when I was going through, like, to kind of bring it back around to why we're here with the pancreatic cancer awareness and the funding and all that stuff. When my mom was sick, I thought that removing the podcast from my day-to-day schedule was going to make me less stressed because, you know, I was down in Florida and helping my dad take care of everything that needed to be taken care of and making sure my mom got to her doctor's appointments and all that stuff. And I ended up canceling like 90% of the podcasts. I was down there for 2-3 months. I canceled almost every podcast I had, except for like on a night that maybe I was like, oh, okay, I just feel like doing it. But I feel like that the podcast almost is like that hobby, but I can't find that happy medium of I'm doing it too much versus not enough that it keeps me happy.
Yeah.
So like I burned myself out and it's like, dang it. Okay. But I'll find the happy medium eventually.
Well, and that's actually what got me back into recording, because there was a few years that I was not recording. I put a lot of time in teaching music, which I love to do. Mm-hmm. And when I got back into recording, it was a hobby. Mm-hmm. But when, you know, people started getting interested in what I was doing and I was letting people know, you know, hey, this is something I'm really interested in, writing music and recording, I would say by around album 3, that it started feeling it started feeling less like a hobby and more like work. Album 4 definitely started feeling more like work, less like a hobby. Album 5, I think album 5, you know, my most recent one, my Crossroads album, I think it really hit me that, okay, this is now work. Now, don't get me wrong. I've got it's a great lineup of songs. If people like them, you know, CDs are selling, streaming's going good. But I'm at the point now where I say, okay, recording is now work. Yeah. I need something, just like you said, when you're doing podcasts, even though that when you may have started, it was fun. Okay, let me backtrack. It felt more like a hobby. Yeah. And that's where I'm at now is, if I'm going to continue writing and recording and doing music, I now need a separate hobby. Yeah. And it helped a lot. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. I 100% agree. And that's kind of where I'm at, is just trying to find the balance and everything. And I think it feels like even though I'm not a musician, everything that I do just kind of revolves around music. Or
Yeah.
I mean, outside of the baseball card stuff, but like
Sure.
I keep finding myself to have the urge to go find a good secondhand shop and go find vinyl, like just buy vinyl for the sake of having it, because you never know what you can find. It's like the treasure hunt almost. I've really been into, this is going to sound weird, but about about a month ago, I think, maybe 2 months ago at this point, I ran across this band that was an Aboriginal death metal band. So out of New Zealand, they were of Aborigine ancestry, and they were a death metal band using like the native instrumentation from New Zealand, kind of like that Mongolian death metal band, The Who. I don't know if you're familiar with them. So, and I've really just been diving deep into that whole subgenre of death metal, but they kind of incorporate native instruments, which is really interesting and cool. And
that is really cool. In finding different genres, that's something else that I think can kind of spice things up, is finding genres that you don't normally listen to. Yep. I think we really get into our comfort zones. For me, it's been rock, and then blues, and then it just kind of expanded outward. Not just listening, but for me and my songwriting, it's really expanded outward. So, but that started by expanding my genres in which I listen. That's great. Yeah. Just listen to different music that you're not normally accustomed to listening. Yeah. And it does, you're like, wow, I've never heard this before.
Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing. I enjoy it. Like now I just find myself on random Spotify playlists listening to random music. It's like, I don't even know what this is, but it sounds amazing. I'm good with it. So, but you'd mentioned that you just released your fifth studio album?
Number 5.
How's what's kind of going through your mind at this point in the game?
Oh my. Well, and that's where the balance really comes in, because I cannot take away from my music and put more emphasis in my RC hobby or work or things like that. So I would say that right now things have actually been going a little bit better than what I anticipated, and this is not meant to say that I set the bar low. I mean, I've got 4 albums out, which are doing very well, but at the same time, you're like, you're crawling at the finish line. I was crawling. I'm like, let's just get this done. In fact, the last song that I recorded is actually one of my more popular songs, Woolly Bob. And I recorded that song in like 2, maybe 3 days. I sent the tracks over to my friend JR. He's my bassist. He does all my bass guitar work. And I'm like, let's knock this song out. We got one more song to do. Let's just get it done. But right now, CD sales are going really well. Streaming, in fact, I always get email updates weekly from like Pandora, and they just sent me and said, hey, I've got an instrumental song called The Bell Tolls at Midnight, and it's starting to take off, and they're like, you might want to promote this. And that's what's really cool about Pandora, Spotify, and Apple Music. They actually give you artists, they actually give us the opportunity to say, okay, let's promote this on, in this case, Pandora. It's really cool. So I guess what I'm saying is that you just never know what's going to happen. You just put it out there.
Absolutely. You don't know how people are going to respond to it or connect to it, or whatever it is. So that's really cool. I'm glad that some of your music is resonating with people and starting to grab some attention. That's really awesome. And that song is off the new album, right?
Yes.
Okay.
In fact, I need to get you a CD. If you still listen to CDs, I need you to get you a copy. So
I have, it's funny because I have a whole bundle or bindle thing over here of CDs, and every once in a while I'll take them on when I go out to Roswell, New Mexico, it's 8 hours there, 8 hours back. So it's like, I'm kind of tired of listening to the Spotify playlist. I just bring the CD bin and throw it in there, and then I'll play the blind man taggeth or whatever. And it's just like, don't take your eyes off the road, find the CD, boom. And then whatever we end up listening to is what it is. So
kind of reminds me of the 90s. And I'm sure that you experienced this as well, that, all of us, we had this binder, the CD binder of CDs. Some people had it in their visor, but a lot of us, including myself, I had this it looks like a little, like a little photo album, and you're reaching over there trying to grab a CD, and, you're trying to keep your eyes on the road and, just to grab a CD.
Yep. I know exactly where you're going with this one. So for me, it was more the early 2000s, because that's when I started to learn how to drive and all that stuff. But still, it was CD. Here we go, boom, and we're in. So
yes.
I know that feeling all too well. And then, of course, CD burners came out, and it's like, oh, even better.
Oh, I remember that. Oh, those were great days of, because before that you had mixtapes. And for those of you who are watching that don't know what we're talking about, cassettes were really big, 80s and early 90s. So we would make mixtapes. Well, then when you had CD burners, then you could actually do a mix CD. That was a lot of fun. I did a lot of those. It was fun. Yeah.
Oh, it really was. I remember when my neighbor taught me how to use the CD burner that we had on there. And at this point, I wasn't using Napster or any of that stuff to download the music. So I was just making compilation albums with the albums that I already had. And he would show me, okay, this is what you got to do. So you have a single CD burner. So this is going to suck, but you insert each CD that you want the song from. It's going to store it to this drive. And then you've got to put the album or the blank CD in. And then you just got to keep doing this swap thing. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. I can't believe people do this, but it is fun. But I am trying to bring back the mixtape. I actually have a dual cassette tape player sitting over here that's not hooked up to anything yet. And I just think, like, nowadays in the music business, it would just be a really cool business card. And the fact that it's functional is even better. But you put together a little mixtape with all your information on it, and it's like, hey, here you go, and just kind of hand it out. And worst comes to worst, people just hold on to it as like, oh, hey, this is funny, So that's where I want to take the next step. But cassettes are so dang expensive. So
I know. It's funny that I've actually heard, and I don't know if it's in the United States or if it's in other countries, but I've heard that cassette sales have actually gone up. Of course, vinyl, people getting back into vinyl, but I've actually heard that some are getting back into cassettes. Yeah. Do I see people putting cassettes back in their cars? No, because newer models, they don't even have CD players. Yeah. So whenever some people are, oh, you've got a new CD out, great. And they're like, well, I don't have a CD player. I'm like, well, I guess you can stream it, you know?
Yeah. Well, and that's the interesting thing is like there's no inherent benefit to listening to cassettes. I think it's just more of a relic thing that people are doing. I know it's very popular on the DIY punk scene where people will go buy blank cassettes and just make, their own stuff or make their own mixtapes or whatever it is. But it's also one of those things where cassettes are so expensive. So it's like you're really not saving anything. So
exactly.
But
times, just like Bob Dylan said, times they are a changing.
Yep.
So how are they changing? I don't know. But something that I wanted to mention, especially with this being for pancreatic cancer and things like that. One thing that's really kind of hit me, and I'm really glad that you're doing this because my godmother she was hit by this last year, I believe. And so, she meant the world to me. I mean, she was there at my baptism. I've known her all my life. So I just wanted to say that really quick, that I'm really glad that you're doing this, because, I know somebody personally who's been affected by this.
Yeah.
So I'm really glad
that was going to be my next question, because I try to bring it back to the pancreatic part, because it's that weird thing where I don't want it to be all like down and serious the whole time, but we are also here for a reason. So just like any stories and stuff. So first of all, I'm sorry you had to witness your godmother going through that. And for me personally, I know exactly what it's like. Was she diagnosed late in the process, or was it still pretty early on?
And I don't know all the details. I just know that, and this is where it made things really interesting, because not only, I'm a musician, but my day job is being a nutritionist. And what made things even more interesting in this situation is the fact that she's a family friend. She was my grandmother's best friend. My grandmother started our health food store, which I then took over as a nutritionist and then became her nutritionist. So, we, towards the end, we talked, more often. It kind of tapered off a little bit as she hit the later stages, but it really hit me when her daughter, who's also my friend, called me and was like, just letting you know, I mean, it's not looking good. And, I did everything I could, and it really hit me hard, because I've known her all my life, and so
it's hard. It hit. Yeah, I know, especially on our end, it hit so fast. Like, I think within 90 days, my mom was gone, which isn't as fast as some people, but it's still like, when you think about it, you go in 1 month and everything's fine, and then 90 days later they're not there. It's like, holy crap, one of those things. So, but
and that's what it was with my grandfather. His was colon cancer, and the doctors gave him 6 months or whatever, and it was and I think he passed in like maybe 2 months. I mean, so even when they say, oh yeah, they've got X number of months to live or whatnot, sometimes it can happen so fast, and it just grabs you.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I want to thank you for sharing that story. I was getting ready to ask about it, and I appreciate you sharing that story. It's not fun, and I just want to take this moment to reiterate, anybody that's out there listening or will be listening in the future, because we'll re-release these down the line. If you are just not feeling right, because especially, I know colon cancer is known as the silent killer, and even pancreatic cancer, there's not very much as far as like symptoms to look out for. But if just something doesn't feel right, make sure you're getting checked up. Don't go for every little thing, but it is worth it to be aware, or you could be dealing with some serious consequences. So
absolutely. Yeah. You just got to stay on top of it. Yeah,
yep, absolutely. So before we wrap this up here, we ran a little bit longer than I was originally intending, but that's all right. Everybody that comes on the fundraiser stream today gets a random question from the random question generator app on my phone.
All right.
So they get a little weird, but this question in front of me isn't really that bad. So,
okay.
What 4 items would you have on an island to survive?
Oh gosh. I would say RC car, but eventually batteries go bad. So if there's a way I could generate electricity with coconuts, I'd be okay. But definitely have to have beer, acoustic guitar. If I can say beer twice, I would. And water. So that when I get tired of beer, I can switch to water. But I would do something along this lines.
Gotcha. Fair. That's very fair. But once again, I want to thank you so much for jumping on here. It's been an absolute blast. And
Thank you.
hopefully we'll get you back on real soon. Before we let you go here, though, anybody that wants to check out the new album or any of your other stuff that's out, where's the best place for them to do that?
Best place to go is john3music.com. That's the number 3, john3music.com.
Awesome. And I got to say, I am surprised I haven't made, in the 2 interviews that we've done, I'm surprised I've not made a single Terminator reference. I'm sure you get that all the time.
It never gets old.
Never gets old? Okay, that's fair. Because as I was preparing, for whatever reason, my weird Arnold Schwarzenegger voice came in, and I'm just like, no, I'm not going to do it. He probably gets it all the time. He's probably tired of it. I'm good.
No, and there's 2 things. 1, I'm born on Christmas Day. That never gets old. And 2, I am John Connor, the Terminator. It is what it is. So no, those 2 things never get old.
Awesome. Well, once again, thank you so much for jumping on, and we will be back here in a few minutes with our next act. Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks.